Hello world. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be, and welcome along to this video. So, what is the one thing that every great artist has? Well, of course, the answer is more VCAs than the rest of us. No, that's not true. Well, maybe it is actually. The answer is uniqueness, originality. So, let's think for a moment. Think about your favorite artists. What is it about them that you love so much? Probably the first time you heard music by that artist, you were blown away for some reason because there was something different about it. There was something in there that you'd never heard before, and that is uniqueness. I don't think many people have been blown away or truly impressed by something that they've heard before that sounds just like everything else. So uniqueness, originality is the one thing that all great artists have and that we all aspire to. Of course, too much uniqueness or too much originality can make music a little bit difficult to listen to at first, and that's sometimes when you have to work a little bit at listening. Having something within the music that we can latch onto, some level of familiarity, is good, but ultimately it is that uniqueness that really makes an artist shine when we're listening to that music. So that's what I would like to sort of talk about a little bit for today. Uniqueness and originality and how we can approach that within modular synth. I suppose actually this could be relevant to any artist really. It doesn't have to be modular synth artists. It could be musicians, could be writers, painters, photographers. It doesn't actually make much difference. Uniqueness is universal as a quality that makes people stand out from the crowd. So how can we develop our own uniqueness, and how can we create our own voice, for want of a better word? I've got to stop saying that. How many times in the last, 5 videos have I said, for want of a better word? Right, well, I want a better word. I want a better phrase. That phrase has got to go. For want of a better word, I'm not saying that anymore. If I say that again, I don't know what will happen. Nothing will happen, but I'll just get annoyed. Okay, so where does our unique voice come from, or where do we start? Usually, any artist starting out will have some influences. There will be some reason why they picked up their instrument, whatever that instrument may be, or why they started making music, and that's usually because the music that they loved or the music that they really interested in has influenced them to the point where they actually want to start making music like that. So we all have our own influences, and we all have our own heroes and idols that have inspired us on our journey. And that is the first starting point for finding your own unique voice. And you might think, well, that's kind of counterintuitive, because if you want to sound more like yourself, why are other people the starting point on that journey? Well, you have to kind of acknowledge what your influences are. And your influences can be quite varied. Your influences can come from different genres or different types of music. They can maybe even come from different art forms. It doesn't have to always be music. But what you can do is you can take aspects or steal aspects from all those different influences and kind of blend them together. And this is what many great artists do or have done in the past. Not necessarily consciously, maybe it just happens, it kind of happens over time, but by blending your influences together, by creating sort of a melting pot of inspiration, you can create something which is original. So you take an element from this style, you take an element from that style, or from this artist, from that artist, and it can be all sorts of things. It could be, a particular artist that uses a certain piece of gear combined with somebody else that works in a certain way, combined with somebody else that uses a particular kind of structure in their music. Individually, these ideas are not unique, but the combination of those ideas will be unique. And because every single person on this planet has a different range of artists or influences that they look to, everybody has a different melting pot, or everyone has a different selection of elements to choose from. So the combination of elements will always be unique. So that's maybe the starting point, is to look to the artists that you admire and that influence you, and try and steal ideas from those different places and blend them together. Another thing that you can do is to experiment. Now, obviously, we've talked about experimentation before, and how modular synth in particular is great for experimentation. And in fact, experimentation is key when it comes to creating music with modular. So in that respect, straight away, a modular synth is set up for experimentation, and in that respect, developing uniqueness. But by expanding that further, by forcing yourself to step out of your comfort zone, to break the rules. I almost did it. I almost said, for want of a better word, my God, I stopped myself. So to step out of your comfort zone, to break the rules that you've set for yourself, but break the rules that are set by genre or convention, whatever it may be. That is a way that you can also develop uniqueness. Moving on from there, and you might think this is also kind of counterintuitive, because it kind of sounds like it's the opposite of perhaps what I've just said. Maybe the next 2 points are, in fact, but to limit yourself, or limitation. Limitation can breed creativity. When you have less choice, that can force you to be more creative with the decisions that you make. So, for example, you might limit yourself to a particular set of modules, or you might limit yourself to a particular genre, or a particular scale, or a particular structure within the music. That limitation, that fixing of that one thing, will then force you to be more creative in other areas of the music. And again, this is a way to sort of develop your own unique voice. Okay, the next point that I would say, or the next thing that can help you with developing uniqueness, is having a consistency of output. So continuing to work and continuing to create whatever your art form is, in this case for me, music, if you continue to do that regularly over time, then you will slowly get to know yourself. You will become more experimental, and ideas will, or signature sounds, signature ideas will come out of that. And slowly over time, that voice will develop. Okay, if we look to many of the greatest artists or composers that ever lived, you probably can link the amount of work that they produce with the perception by the world at large with how great they are. And it does seem to be that the more great we consider an artist to be, so if you think of the likes of, I don't know, like Mozart, Beethoven, Bach, Aphex Twin, if you want to think of more recent artists, they have a huge amount of work that they produce. And that prolificness precedes uniqueness. They spent a lot of time honing their craft and working at what they do, and experimenting, breaking the rules, stepping out of their comfort zone, trying different ideas, as well as embracing their influences as well. And over that vast period of time and creating so much work, you can't help but, or they can't help but develop a unique voice. The next thing I would say is to listen to yourself. Listen to the music that you produce. It's so important to listen and have awareness of what you've created and hear the voices within that music that is coming through or trying to come through, and to trust what you hear and to trust the ideas that come forward when you listen. Now, I did recently do a whole video on listening, which which failed, and I've got to do it again, and I haven't done it yet. So I am still going to do that video. So watch out for that. But listening is of key importance if you want to develop your own creativity and uniqueness and originality. Next point would be to trust the power of imperfection. Again, this is something that I've spoke about a great deal on this channel with thinking about modular synthesis and how modular synthesis works, and some of the things that I enjoy with modular synthesis. Imperfection, embracing mistakes, these are some of the key things when it comes to working with modular synthesis that we need to look out for, because those imperfections or those mistakes can be real gold nuggets of uniqueness. And you might wonder why that is. Well, quite often those mistakes or imperfections are only mistakes to ourselves. They're not necessarily mistakes to an external listener. Obviously, things like, if you're playing an instrument and you play a wrong note or you play out of time or something like that, that's a technical mistake which may be a problem and you need to re-record something again. But when it comes to mistakes that are ideas, and we come across these little happy accidents, which happens quite a lot with modular synth, those things are only mistakes to ourselves. They're not mistakes to the listener, because the listener doesn't know what we were trying to do in the first place. Only we know that. And quite often when we have an idea of something specific that we're trying to do, it's because we're trying to emulate one of our influences or one of our idols, or something that we've heard. So when we do something, or when something happens that is a mistake, it's only really a mistake because we didn't end up doing what we were intending to do, which is that emulation of our influences. And so really that mistake is it's almost like a mutation, a genetic mutation that happens. If we think of our music as being an evolution of the music that's come before us, and all these little genetic mutations cause the uniqueness or the individuality of the music, in the same way that genetic mutations in a person create individuality and uniqueness. So these mistakes aren't really mistakes, they're just little genetic mutations. And so we should trust in those mistakes, and we should embrace those mistakes and imperfections. And finally, of course, we should always follow our instincts. If we feel that something is good, then it probably is good. And we shouldn't worry too much about whether it's following a trend or not following a trend. In fact, it's probably best, not to follow trends, because trends come and go. And if you want to create something that's lasting, then it's probably best to avoid any kind of trend. So trust your instincts, and that will help you in developing your own unique style and originality. Okay, I'm going to finish off this video there. So quite a short video for today. I hope you found that interesting though. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, then please hit the subscribe button and the like button. That'll be much appreciated. And if you want to support the channel further, you can always buy me a coffee below, or sign up to my Patreon with the link below as well. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye bye.